Hi guys, it's Jess from Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. So if you're familiar with my channel, you know that I read a lot of fantasy romance and dark romance. So for this video, I'm going to be sharing my favorite romance books that feature the kidnapping / captor captive trope. Alright guys, so the kidnapping / captor captive trope happens to be one of my favorite tropes. However, because of the dark subject matter, I get that it's not for everyone, so if you are not a fan, please click out of this video. Also, because these books are all a little bit darker, definitely check trigger warnings. There's a lot, there's essay, there's non-con, a lot of stuff happens in these books, so definitely check those out before jumping into any of these. Now, with that being said, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram and Goodreads, both linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about these taboo wrecks. Alright, so starting off with fantasy romance, first up we have The Never King, and this is by Nikki and Crowe. I've talked a lot about this book on my channel. This is a very dark reverse harem Peter Pan reimagining, and Peter Pan travels every, I think, 18 years or so and collects a descendant from Wendy Darling. So for this one, we are following Winnie, who grew up thinking her mom was crazy because her mom kept saying, "I need to protect you from Peter Pan," and then she realizes her mom was telling the truth the entire time. So Winnie ends up seducing the Lost Boys and Peter, and it goes from there. I very much enjoyed this. This was really fun. I love the plot. It ended up being much more deep than I thought it was going to be and more emotional, and I really loved the story. So overall, definitely check this out. This is part of a series. The next book will be coming out a little bit later, but definitely has the kidnapping trope. She's kidnapped in the very beginning, and it's a really good time. So I highly recommend. Next up, we have another Peter Pan reimagining. So Hooked by Emily Mcintire. So this is not super captor until at least halfway into the book, but overall this book is so much fun. So it is following Hook, who wants to get revenge against Peter Pan, who ends up being the owner of another mafia, and Hook also owns a mafia. And one day Wendy, Peter's daughter, comes to Hook's bar, and Hook decides that he's going to use Wendy against her father. This is super spicy, super steamy, definitely check trigger warnings, but I love this and I cannot wait to continue with the series. I believe Scarred, I'm going to be reading in April, and I'm so excited. But definitely check this one out. And next up, we have Desperate Measures, and this is by Katee Robert. So this is also a little bit lighter with the kidnapping. So it's following Jasmine, whose father was just killed, and she's taken hostage by Jafar. And it has BDSM, really fun. There's a whole Hades subplot that he owns a nightclub. And it's a really fun time. This is part of the Disney Villainous series. I've only read the first 4 books. I've enjoyed them. They're fun, not a lot going on, but overall very enjoyable reads. I really enjoy Katee Roberts' writing. So if you haven't checked this out yet, please do. This is the first book in the Wicked Villain series. And next up, we have my absolute favorite on this list, and that is Bad Saint, and this is by Monica James. This is the first in a 3-book series. I read the series last year. It is one of my all-time favorites. So it is following a woman who ends up being kidnapped on her honeymoon and taken aboard the ship. And when she's on the ship, she has a chance to escape, and she accidentally ends up capsizing the entire boat. So then her and her kidnapper end up washing ashore on this island, and they have to survive. And it goes from there. It's so good. Oh my gosh, I love this series. If you're a fan of the Flock series, this kind of gave me Flock vibes. I'm not really sure why, besides the fact that it's a thriller romance. But overall, definitely check this out, and it 100% has the captor captive trope. All right, next up, we have 2 mafia romances. So first is Stolen Heir by Sophie Lark. This is the second book in the Brutal Birthright series. This is actually my favorite in the series. It is following Nikolaj, who's in the Russian mafia. And when his father figure is killed, he ends up kidnapping the youngest daughter of the higher-ups in the Irish mafia. And it is so fun watching these two deal with each other because Nikolaj is very stoic and very cold, and then this young daughter is just super innocent. She's a ballerina, and I love this. This was so much fun. So if you're a fan of mafia romances, I would definitely check this out. And next up, we have Darkest Temptation by Danielle. This is the 3rd book in her The Sweetest Oblivion series, I believe it's called. This is definitely my favorite. It's also the darkest. It is following Mila, who ends up journeying to Russia to find out secrets about her father. And when she gets there, she ends up being kidnapped by Ronin, who is the head of the Russian mafia. And they slowly form a relationship. Super dark, so good. Highly recommend, especially if you like that captor captive trope. It's done very well in this. And next up, we have Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I absolutely love Pam Godwin. So this is actually a pirate romance. Our main character is the daughter of a very revered pirate and a noblewoman, and when her father is killed and her mother ends up committing suicide, she decides to become a pirate herself. So after having a failed marriage and she's fleeing her ex-husband, she is captured by a pirate hunter, and it goes from there. This book is so good. I love our main character. I love her story. I love how strong she is. And the whole captor-captive trope is definitely at play when she is kidnapped by the pirate hunter. So if you're a fan of pirate romances, definitely check this out. But also, just be warned, check trigger warnings. It is a dark romance, but really, really good. And last up is a book that I wasn't sure if I wanted to include, and that is Captive in the Dark. So this book is very, very dark. It was probably too dark for me. I did finish it, but the entire time I was reading it, I just felt very uncomfortable. It is following our main character, Livy, who ends up being abducted by Caleb, and he's trying to train her to eventually be like a pleasure servant. That's a very nice way of putting it. I'm trying to stay monetized, but very dark. Definitely check trigger warnings, and it's just a lot of disturbing imagery. But if you really want the captor-captive trope, that's this book. So if you want to, check it out. But once again, definitely check the trigger warnings. All right, guys, those are all the books that fit the kidnapping/captor-captive trope. Please let me know down in the comments below if you have any books that have this trope that you really enjoy. I would love some book recommendations. Now, I said this already, but I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.